excited about getting well?
Yes.
That doesn't sound too convincing. Are you excited about getting well? Yes, excited about getting well. We have an exciting, and you guys know, as far as what we've taught a lot and help you understand is that stress, overwhelming stress causes a lot of problems. And we're going to talk today about stress, but not only that, but how we can help resolve stress, short-term and long-term, so that as we resolve the stress, we resolve the etiology of diseases. And we have a fantastic team member here today. Everybody get a ticket when they came in? Okay, because we're going to be giving a lot of giveaways today. So we have an exciting new member. Juditha will be joining us. Awesome, exciting class, fantastic class, a lot of practical applications. And we look forward to more things to come for you. Anybody have any testimony before we start? Any victories of the last since we taught class? Right. As you get those victories, let us know about them. We'd love to catch them out. All right, so without further ado, here's Juditha. Thank you for Juditha. Give it up for Juditha. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Juditha. Like Dr. Fryer said, I'm so excited to be teaching the stress class for today. For part one of the stress class is going to be a review for some of you, but we are going to review it today. Part two, we're going to be focusing on positive stress and also application in part two as well. My goal today is for you to leave here knowing that you are in control of how you feel. So we're going to start off with a little exercise today, and I'm going to have you repeat something after me, but before I have you repeat it, I want you to know what's going to be repeated, and I'm going to explain to you why. So you're going to be repeating, today I refuse to stress over things I cannot control or change, okay? So this is letting you know that, like I said before, you are in charge how you start your day. It is a choice to wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm going through a difficult time at home, at work, with family members, but even in the midst of everything that I'm going through, I want to see the positive in it, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll start off. Today I refuse.
Today I refuse. Today I refuse.
Let's try that one more time. I'm going to say it all together and then I'll have you say it. Today I refuse to stress over things I cannot control or change.
Today I refuse to stress over things I cannot control or change.
Okay, that was pretty good, but I'm going to have you repeat it again. And I want you to say it like you believe it, okay? Today I refuse
To stress over things I cannot control or change.
Okay, so when you wake up in the morning, I want you to use this exercise. You wake up and you say, you know what, I'm going to have a good day today. And go ahead and repeat this, and I know that as you train your mind, your brain, it is a powerful thing, but as you train it, you will begin to have even more powerful and positive thoughts, okay? Okay, let's go ahead and start off. So in part one, we will be talking about what are stressors, the definition of stress. We will review the mechanism of stress, and lastly in part one is the management techniques. So what are your stress? I want you to take a few seconds to think about some of your stressors, and as you think about it, I'll go ahead and share mine. I know for me, I just moved to Tennessee from San Antonio, Texas. I moved here with my daughter and my husband. We took a U-Haul and it was basically us coming over here. So the change of environment, it was stressful for me. I had to find a new home, a new church. But what I can say is the good thing is I get to meet new people and I get to grow. I have the opportunity to grow in a different environment. Does anybody else want to share their stressor? Anyone?
I'll share. So, with my husband, he's in the military. So currently, he's supposed to be going to PCSing to Fort Bragg. So with everything that's going on and a lot of the soldiers at Fort Bragg deploying, that's something that's weighing on my mind if my husband's going to have to deploy. So that's one of my stressors right now.
Well, thank you for sharing yours. Does anybody else want to share? Don't be shy. Miss Linda?
My daughter had, in November, she had cancer removed, and she's now in remission, but it continues to be something that I stress over, checking on her and so forth, so that's a big one for us.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? No? Okay, we'll go ahead and go on to the next slide. So research has shown that the 5 most common major stressors are work, change, relationship, loss of a loved one, and illness. I had you share your stressors to let you know that you're not alone. We all go through stressors. Either we're currently going through it or we've gone through it in the past. It's something that it's hard to avoid. So in America, 3 out of every 4 Americans reported feeling at least one symptom of stress in the past month. And 45% say they lay awake at night due to stress. If you have dealt or are currently dealing with stress, I just want to let you know that you are in the right place. Okay, so the definition of stress. Stress is a physical, mental, and emotional factor that causes bodily and mentally tension. Stress can be external or internal. An example of an internal stress would be that feeling and thought that pops up in your head in the middle of the night and sometimes doesn't allow you to sleep. And maybe you have thoughts in the middle of the night and you do rest, but then you get up in the morning and you feel like you just didn't get that rest that you needed. And it could be those thoughts that are running through your mind as you sleep. And some of the thoughts might be fear. Common fears are fear of failure, fear of public speaking, and fear of flying. An example of an external stress would be major life changes. For example, military deployment, work, school, or even having a busy schedule. Okay, we can also define stress Stress can be defined as the non-specific response of the organism to any pressure or demand. So that means the total response of the organism to the stressor. Like mentioned in our previous slide, internal and external. Stressors can be mind and body. It can be connected. More examples of an internal stressor would be thoughts like, I just really don't want to be here today. It's another Wednesday. Do I really have to do this? Do I really have to go to work? Those are all examples of stressors that can go on through your mind. Dr. Hans Schley, which is considered to be the first to demonstrate the existing of stress, he stated, "It is our perception of the stressor that determines if it becomes a stress." Which means what you might consider to be a stress might not be a stress to somebody else because we're all different. So it's good to recognize what your stressors are. And it is also good to make it a habit to try to see the good in every situation. Like I mentioned before, when I mentioned my stress of moving, I had to pause and think about what am I gonna see good in this situation, which is growing and having the opportunity to grow in a different environment. A quote that I enjoy from Victoria Osteen would be, "As you keep your mind and heart focused in the right direction, approaching each day with faith and gratitude, I believe you will be empowered to live life to the fullest and enjoy the abundance life that He has promised you." Okay, so now for part 3, the mechanism of stress. We will be talking about a natural or established process by which stress takes place or is brought about. Who remembers the 3 types of stress that Dr. Fryer taught us about? Do you remember?
Physical, emotional, and chemical.
Good job. Yes, apply. Okay, so correct. Physical, chemical, and emotional. Physical can be a result of your action, lack thereof, or someone else's. Do you have an example that you can give us? Dr. Fryer?
Being a couch potato.
Being a couch potato, good job. Anybody else?
If you cut your hand or, injure yourself.
An injury, right? Okay, I can give you two. Heavy lifting, a car accident. Okay, now for chemical. Chemical can be both man-made or natural. So like some of the things you're sensitive to in your food sensitivity test. Also, as mentioned with Mrs. Fryer's presentation, the GMOs as well can be chemical stress. Emotional, and can anybody give me an example of an emotional stress?
You're angry.
When you're angry, right? Right. Death. Anyone else?
Waiting on test results from a doctor.
Right.
Unknown. Unknown.
Right, those are all right. Anger, anxiety, sadness, any of those feelings. Okay, more on the mechanism of stress. In history, their concerns were mainly predators and also really basic needs. So I want you to just imagine that you're back there in history and this lion is coming after you. Now, this lion is trying to take the food that you caught for your family and you just don't know when you're gonna catch your next food. What response would you have? Run, right. So historically, stress was a physical thing. We needed it to survive with a physical response. Our bodies had to mount a response that could get us safely away from that. A big physical stressors for women would be, back then probably they had to give birth out in the fields, and they didn't have any epidural or medication. So you can just imagine how that was. They had to mount a physical response to survive that event as well. There are two responses that make you react differently. The first response is an immediate reaction. No time for you to even think about it. You just respond unconsciously. During this episode, also known as the fight or flight response, you release two hormones, the epinephrine and the norepinephrine. Does anybody know another name for these?
Yes.
Right. Adrenaline and noradrenaline. So a representation of this would be, this would represent the first response. So it seems that the kid didn't see the animal coming right to the window. So he had no time to process the situation. Once he saw the little donkey, you can see the massive response that he had. So let's take a close look at this picture and our young man here, and let's see how his response is. What's happening to his eyes?
Enlarged.
They're enlarged, right?
They're looking at his teeth.
They're looking at his teeth, they're wider. And what's happening to his face muscles?
Stretched out.
Right, it's tighter, stretched out. His breathing, can you imagine what his breathing is doing? Rapid.
Heart rate
Fast heart rate, right? His muscles overall are probably tense. So if we think about the lion analogy, he activates the same mechanism years ago. This would have allowed him to escape a lion and run away from the physical threat. Granted, he can't run away now because he's probably wearing a seatbelt. But this physical response is still going to be the same one as the lion, as he's going to secrete the same hormones, even though he's not running away. Okay, now let's talk about the second response. The second response can take a few minutes, hours, or even weeks. We don't think the response happens naturally. It releases the cortisol, and does anybody know where it comes from? It was mentioned in the previous slide.
Also the adrenals.
Yes.
Correct. Right. Also the adrenaline. It's like when you let things build up and sometimes you don't address it, you just let it build up, so then you begin to feel overwhelmed. This is an example of the second response. A lot of multitasking, being overwhelmed at work, being emotionally drained, all are from this stress. That tends to be longer standing and have a delayed response. Stress to our personal relationship can weigh us down, especially relationship we care for. So having strong social networks, maybe it's family or friends, is very important. But you also have to think it's important to have, to be surrounded by positive people. People that can uplift you, people that can help you, that can motivate you, especially in your wellness journey. You gotta be around people that can let you know what, you're doing a good job, don't stop, continue on. Okay, the three major stress hormones are the adrenaline, the cortisol, and the norepinephrine, commonly known as the fight or flight hormone. It is produced by the adrenal glands after receiving a message from the brain that a stressful situation is happening. The adrenaline, along with the norepinephrine, is responsible for the immediate reaction we feel when we are stressed, like shown here on this image. So I'll go ahead and give you a story of something that I went through. So I lived in Alaska for about 18 years, and in Alaska, of course, you have to drive on ice. So one day I was driving on ice, and I wasn't driving that fast. I was coming up to a red light, and I was putting my foot on the brake, and my car did not want to stop. So you could just imagine how I felt. I'm getting closer, putting my foot on the brake. It's not, my car's not stopping. So I just start panicking. Now they tell you you're supposed to pump your foot on the brakes, but I'm not thinking. I'm just like, this car's not stopping. I don't know what to do. So what I was feeling at that moment is my muscles got tense, my breathing got faster, and my forehead was even sweating. Thank God everything was okay and nobody was coming, but right there, that's an example of the adrenaline. Okay, we'll do a summary of the first response and the second response. So the first response, like I said, is a fight or flight. I gotta get out of here, I'm not thinking. The first response we call the fight or flight. It activates the sympathetic nervous system and releases which hormones? It releases the hormone, the epinephrine and the norepinephrine, and causes all of those symptoms that will help you escape by being chased by a lion or whatever it might be. The second response, a much slower response, thinking more along the line, if this is good or bad, or how am I going to take care of this later. It stimulates the release of the cortisol that helps you have some emotion about the stressor so that you think about it a little bit. Immune activating and causes a metabolic response to the stress, meaning that the body produces more energy. Chronic stress, or stress that is constant and felt for a long period of time, can lead to a long-term problem of the heart and of the blood vessels. The elevated level of stress hormones and blood pressure can take a toll on the body. So if you have experienced stress, which I'm sure you have, it is important to know how to manage it. So now we're going to go ahead and talk about the management techniques. So we'll be talking about balanced diet, exercise, meditation, self-care, mindfulness, and prayer. I realize that these management techniques are not for everybody, but as we go along these slides, I would like for you to think about how you can apply this to your life. Okay, so diet. What are stimulants? The definition of stimulants is a substance that raises level physically or nervous activity in the body. What would you say are some stimulants that we encounter daily? Caffeine? Sugars?
Artificial sweeteners would be worse.
Right. So I will go ahead and I will talk about sugars, added sugars. Sugars can cause inflammation. So with sugar being a stimulant and an inflammatory, not only are you getting stimulated or a sugar high, which can make you crash, it can be addicting and it can have an effect on your body. Too much sugar can increase heart disease, risk factors such as obesity, high blood pressure. So basically, it would be putting unnecessary stress on your body. The next thing is working on a balanced diet, and I believe reducing your stimulants is a very good way to start off. You don't have to answer this one out loud, but how many cups of coffee or caffeinated drinks would you say you drink a day? You don't have to answer it out loud. On an average, people drink 4 to 5 cups of coffee a day, but often you might notice that people that do drink that much coffee a day are stressed out. It causes for them to feel very fatigued and tired. And they're tired because they're stressed and anxious. So they are not sleeping, which is causing even more fatigue. Speaking a little bit more on a balanced diet, staying hydrated is definitely a key. And how much water should we be drinking daily? Correct. A half body weight in ounces per day. It is a good thing to have 50% of each of your meals to be super pretty colorful fruits and veggies. So if you're diabetic, maybe less fruits because of the sugar content that is in it. So let's think about what we had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Was it 50% fruits and vegetables? You don't have to answer that out loud. So why did I define this as being super pretty and colorful? Those generally are higher in antioxidant and minerals to nourish our bodies, so they're not taxed for fuel. Here are some ideas or some healthy foods that you can keep in mind. Nuts like raw pistachios and almonds are a good source of vitamin B. So nuts can help us increase our vitamin B levels as well as lower our blood pressure and increase potassium level. Avocados are different than most fruits because they are loaded with healthy fat. They are high in fiber, potassium, and vitamin C. Apples are high in fiber, vitamin C, and numerous antioxidants. They make a perfect snack. Bananas are among the world's best sources of potassium. Asparagus is a popular vegetable. It's low in both carbs and calories, but are loaded with vitamin K. Can you tell me some of your favorite healthy foods?
Blueberries.
Blueberries,
Sweet potatoes.
sweet potatoes,
Broccoli.
broccoli, cabbage, she has a lot.
Spinach.
Raspberry, good. Any other favorite healthy foods?
Oatmeal.
Avocados. Anyone else?
How do cashews,
Spinach.
how do cashews stack up?
How do they stack up?
I mean, are they good for you or they're not good for you?
Yeah, cashew as a nut is a very good nut to eat, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so now for exercising. We all know that exercising is great for you. It's good to keep your body active. What are the benefits of exercising? Do you have any in mind?
I sleep better when
You sleep better, that's good.
I breathe better.
Breathe better?
Promote cardiovascular disease.
Right, correct. Anybody else?
You have more energy
More energy?
and you're less stressed.
Less stress, that's good. So some that I had in mind is it helps control weight, it reduces your risk of heart disease, it helps body manage blood sugars and insulin level, it helps you quit smoking, it improves your mental health and mood, and it helps keep your thinking, learning, and judgment skills sharp as you age. So we recommend a start of 3 times a week for 30 minutes. If you have stairs, walking up and down the stairs for 15 minutes, and then the second part of the day, another 15 minutes could help. You don't need a machine. You can even run in place if you like, but as long as you're staying active. Some people like doing yoga. Yoga is an Indian tradition with specific poses that focuses on breathing and stillness, in movement and strengthening in the transition between poses. And this one, pronounced Qigong movement, focuses on flow of the life energy, the Qi that the ancient Chinese believed to be the central to all living things. And both Tai Chi and Qigong are taught here by our own Mrs. Fryer, and those classes are included into your wellness program. So we want to make sure that you're taking advantage of that. Our next one is this month on the 25th at 10 a.m. And has anybody attended any of these classes? Good, good. And how did it make you feel? Makes you feel tired. It helps you relax. It helps you relax. That's good. Anybody else? Okay. So we have a special treat at the end of Stress Part 2, where Mrs. Fryer will be leading us in some Tai Chi. Meditation comes from the Latin word meditar, to exercise the mind, a state where the mind is free from scattered thoughts and various patterns, and it's profound, concentrating on a subject or muse. The benefits of meditation is it improves mood and mood regulation, increases life satisfaction, reduces depression and anxiety symptoms, it reduces negative feeling, thoughts of self, and it increases immune response to vaccination. Who's the most important part of your healthcare journey? Yourself. That's good. You have to keep that in mind. The act of self-care refers to the activities that are undertaken in the intentions of enhancing your energy, restoring your health, and reducing stress by taking care of yourself. You have to make sure you take care of yourself. What are some forms of self-health care? How do you take care of yourself?
Get enough rest, no sleep.
Resting, make sure you're getting enough rest.
Eating right, exercising.
Eat right and exercising.
Massages.
Massages, that's good.
Spend time with friends.
Spend time with friends. Very good. Personally, I put enjoying time at the salon. I like getting my hair and nails done. like listening to relaxing music, spending time with family. My coworker Chelsea, she shared hers. She said when she lived in Colorado, she liked going on the mountains and just
properly. You know, one of the fascinating pieces of research is they've done some really interesting research with mice and rats about whether stress is actually good or bad for your longevity and for your health. And it turns out that whenever we study mice and rats in the laboratory, almost always when we replicate it with humans, pretty much the same thing is what we discover. So here's an interesting thing. If you put mice in one of three conditions, condition one, almost no stress. Not a lot of other mice, don't have to have a lot of complex social relationships, food is really easy to find. Condition number two, lots of stress, lots of mice, lots of negotiating, food hard to find, no exercise wheels. You can't exercise, but you've got stress. Condition number three, lots of stress, need to negotiate, find the food, but lots of opportunity to exercise. It turns out that those mice in the high stress situation with exercise live much longer and stay both physically and mentally healthy longer than those in either no stress or high stress without exercise. In fact, one of the fascinating things we've discovered over the last 20 years is that exercise is pretty much a magic elixir for the reduction of all the negative impacts of stress. We know from the biggest studies in places like Sweden that as little as 30 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes, 4 or 5 times a week of vigorous walking pretty much alleviate almost all the negative impacts of stress. It's also true that exercising regularly, merely walking, staying active, may reduce your chances of getting dementia and even mean that the onset of Alzheimer's symptoms, even if you have the disease, could be extended by as much as 15 to 20 years. And here's the other interesting thing. Why do those mice live longer and healthier in the stressful situation? Because in fact, and we know this intuitively, when we have challenge in our lives, when we have opportunity to grow, when we have to really use our brain, we're actually happier and more engaged than when we're not. So it's not stress that's the problem, it's the way we handle stress. We also know that just choosing to not let stress get to you, taking it on, is a big factor. I remember years ago a man telling me that he had a little tree outside of his house, and every day after work, and he had a very stressful job, before he went into the house, he would literally dump all his stress from the day on the tree. He'd take 5 minutes and debrief with the tree, say, look, I'll pick you up in the morning. He said all night long he would think to himself, every time he got stressed, you know what, I'll pick it up at the tree in the morning. We know that the brains of long-term meditators, who even meditate 5 to 15 minutes a day, are less reactive to external stressful stimuli than non-meditators. So here's the bottom line. Stress not only will not kill you, it could actually make you healthier because learning and growth propel us into a positive future. But if we don't exercise, and that means just walking, not vigorous exercise, just being active, and if we don't learn to manage stress, that's when we get in trouble. I'm Dr. John Izzo. I'm in the business of conversations that make stress so that you can take advantage of the positive things while not having the negative things.
Okay, and Tai Chi or Qigong is a Chinese tradition used to be ancient martial arts from self-defense, focused on very slow, very intentional flow of movement with a attention to breathing, also used for a nice slow movement of exercising. So if you can please help me welcome Mrs. Fryer.
Thank you very much. Wow. Good job. You received some wonderful information that they can use and maybe take 1 or 2 things and incorporate into your personalized wellness plan. As you notice, you have your sheet on your clipboard of how you can use some of this information in your wellness plan. Now, I would like for everyone to get up, please. And everyone move in. Let your body be the guide, but most of the things we do right now will be quite easy. Because what I will do is we talked about different things to help us de-stress. And this is one of the things we can do. And I'm focusing on things that you can do any time of the day, but especially during the end of the day as you de-stress. And then we'll go through some of the other items on the table. But first thing, you can stand about shoulder width apart, and then you can just start shaking. First start with your hands, just move, and then the whole body. Then you can pump your heels a little bit, because when you bounce your heels against the ground, you're sending vibration throughout your body. And each organ is getting a gentle jiggle. And that gentle jiggle is an internal massage. Relax your head's fine, your jaw, relax it. Because you can't hold stress when you give a way for your body to dispel the stress. So that stress, which could be positive when I hold it, it can be negative when I hold it, but it's positive when I let it go. Now, stand still. What do you notice? Do you feel a tingle? That's the movement of your chi. Your energy is flowing in the body. Okay? Now once you start the chi, we will cultivate that energy with some very slow rhythmic movements that can be very, very relaxing, accompanied by deep breathing. The movement is similar to if I were spreading a sheet over my bed. And the ends, imagine that the ends, your hands, your fingers are like a paintbrush. Breathe in, nice and deep. The goal is to have your body move as if it is water. And if you'll notice, there's a gentle undulation of the spine. Nice. Now we're going to do what is called waving hands as clouds. You can mirror me, you can mirror, yeah, and then inhale. Like you're whisking the clouds away. Turning from the waist. Inhale. It's almost as if you're holding a toddler. You have one hand at the back and one hand under the bottom.
I'm getting my hands confused.
I thought you said you dropped your toddler.
Yeah, as soon as you said toddler.
Now that is a way of dispelling stress, and you should feel relaxed. I feel relaxed, I don't know about you, but you may have your seat. Now, starting from the simplest thing that we can do to the more complex things we can do. Does everyone have a plot of ground near their house, grass or something? You may have heard of grounding, and what that is simply standing barefoot on the ground, without your socks, without your shoes, without stockings, and just stand there for about 15 to 30 minutes. You say, what does that do? Well, the amazing thing is, we are much like a battery, and the earth is like a magnet, the battery is as well, and there are negative charges in the ground. When we stand barefoot, then we take on those negative charges, and it helps to neutralize some of the excess positive charges. You've heard of antioxidants, right? Antioxidants build up in the body, but those negative charges help neutralize them. And also, it will aid in inflammation, because that's an excess of your positive charges, and it's very relaxing. So, you might say, well, I don't have ground to stand on or grass. Then you can use a thing called a grounding mat. This is simply a mat that you plug into your ground. It doesn't give off heat or anything like that. You can put it under your sheets. Been using one for about 3 years now. I really like it. And if you haven't heard of grounding, here's a video that really goes into a lot of the science about it. Not only do we have videos, not we, but I mean, you can get this on Amazon. Mostly everything up here can be obtained from Amazon, whatever. And then a book about grounding. It is a science. At first it was kind of poo-pooed as kind of, but it's now been proven to be very effective. And you might say, well, I want to do something while I'm inside, and this is another device, a grounding device. It comes with your own little outlet tester. So this will tell you if your outlet is grounded, because in some hotel rooms, because sometimes when I go in a hotel room or something like this, I may have this versus the grounding mat, and all of the outlets aren't grounded. So this little tester, usually whenever you order it, it comes with your tester. Or if you're in an office setting and you say, well, I don't want to take my shoes off or whatever, because they have mats that you can use. You can put this, wear it as a bracelet, and then put this in just a little round hole in your outlet, and you get the same same effect as if you were standing outside with your bare foot on the ground, or bare feet. Usually you would stand with both of them. And
Where would you find all this?
okay, now this one you can order through Dr. Fryer. The mats we can obtain them, and then you can look online to get this. This is from Earthing. If you want something like this, also wear a band, and that it's an energy band, and it's kind of like vitamins. Can't really tell sometimes if it's working, but I believe it does. I read it, and I believe my vitamins work. I don't know, I can't tell you how much of that vitamin B2 I'm really assimilating. There are some tests that can kind of tell you. But some things, like many things we do, you take it on faith. If you did the research and just believe it's working, the power of intention in itself is very important as well. Now the next thing I have up here is Epsom salt. And I said, why Epsom salt? Well, this is, anybody know?
It's everything.
Everything, what?
It tells a lot of things.
Sort of.
It relaxes you.
Exactly, it helps, it's detoxifying, as a laxative, yeah, magnesium, I tell you what, you take 2 teaspoons of this, you'll be set. You'll be set in a hurry. I'm just telling you, go to 2, maybe 1.5. But it just depends on the body. But it also helps detoxify. And how many people, I've heard some people like to go to the beauty salon and have massages. Well, I have to kind of my in-home spa routine. That's not, no. Somebody said ghetto. No, it's not ghetto. It's very practical, and it works, right? And it's a way of, I didn't know if you did. I was like, it wasn't ghetto. I'm just having a good time with you guys. But you know, and it's part of self-care and making time, because it doesn't go into a spa for an hour or 2. It can get expensive, and it can induce the stress when you see the bill. You say, there's got to be another way. There is. We talked about aromatherapy. And when I do, you have a diffuser going on back there, and you put the fragrance that you want. I have that in the bathroom. Some hot water in your bathtub, especially if you have a tub shower combo. Put some Epsom salt in there. Put a little bit of your aromatherapy, whatever I do. Right now I think I'm doing firwood or whatever. And it's good, And then when you get into the shower, turn your shower on, leave the water in the bottom, you're getting all of the benefits of your magnesium from the salt, and it detoxifies, and it's good. It's also a good anti-inflammatory, because usually it's if you work out or you muscle tension, soak in Epsom salt, and it gets that nice wow kind of feeling. And what are you out of? It just, whatever it costs you for your organic essential oils. And I encourage you to buy it at a big bulk type place, and there's some online. And you got some salt? What? Not much. And also, moving on, you may see this light right here, light therapy. Has anybody heard of seasonal affective disorder, anything like that? What do you know about it?
I learned that, in the wintertime, especially when it's dark, you get a little bit depressed. So when you use the light, you have the tendency to sort of like uplift you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. That is perfect. Especially this time of year, you wake up and it's dark, and you go home and it's dark. Sometimes you miss out on a bright light. And this one has 3 brightnesses. I have one, and it's recommended when you first get up in the morning, you have that going on. And just kind of, for me, it gives me that, well, all right. It's nice and bright, and it's kind of like being able to look out and see the sunshine. And this is an Amazon product, like I said, that runs about maybe $45 or so. It's a lot of different varieties. And also you can use it inside if you're in an office that doesn't have a window. It's very helpful. And that helps set your circadian rhythm, because due to the artificial things that we have from our rubber-soled shoes, when we don't contact the earth almost ever now, you have artificial lights, you have 24-hour lighting, because sometimes in my bedroom I have the street lights and come through the blinds, you can't get blackout blinds though. But then also, in order to help your body downshift at the end of the day, these are blue blocking glasses. And it also is good for decreasing the strain on your eyes when you're using the computer as well. And this is called a True Dark brand. This is the most expensive brand up here. When I try stuff, I like to try the variety. And I know these look funny, and as my son said, Mom, it's hard for me to take you serious when you put those on. And they look like I'm about to do something in a bug's life. But it is very gentle. It just makes all of the light, even in this room, gentle. It just is very soothing. And it's recommended that you can also use them as it's time for your body to prepare to go to bed. And you might say, well, I have glasses and I don't want to do something over my glasses. Well, they have the little clips you can wear as well. And all of these came from Amazon as well. And you can just clip them on your glasses. And of them all, actually, this one is my favorite. These go over the glasses, but they're small. And my frames are really small, and my face is small, and I don't see how, and that's why I did get the other pair, because it was mentioned in the reviews. Jump out of here. Okay. They don't look as bug-like, but they're, again, the arms of them are not as big as well. So I'm always kind of pushing them up on my face. But that's something you can come and look at. And also at night, a night mask. Anybody use a sleep mask? I was amazed. I really was amazed, because I thought it was kind of, I got this. Man, I can tell immediately when I go to bed and I don't have it on, because like I say, I had that light coming in so long, and I had just kind of tuned it out. But then this really works, and this is less than $25, and these are a higher end. Now, if anybody has challenges with anxiety, or has a child with ADHD, or some type of sensory type that needs that feeling of being swaddled, there's also weighted blankets. And
We use that a lot in schools.
really,
Yes.
and it's and I personally don't use one. When I got it, just to experiment with it to see. I could see where it would work, but for me, that's not for me. But you can come and see the weight will depend upon your weight. So if you're 2 people in the bed and you have weighted blankets each, one may need a 15-pound, one may need 5, or one may need 10. But it can swallow quite well. And then here is one of the things I like. It's a portable sauna because it not only does it give you your heat, and it also has infrared light therapy on the inside. I have, and at the end, you're welcome to come in here and try it. But as you know, there are infrared lights on the inside of the panel here. And then I say it gets heated very well, very fast, and it causes you to sweat. And what does sweating do? It helps you detoxify. Very good. And when you use a sauna for sweating, it's a deeper sweat than just a superficial sweat. And as I get older, the more I need a little help to help me sweat. I used to sweat no challenge. Now I don't sweat as much. All right, questions, comments, concerns? I have some things to give away. And I noticed one of my super answer here. And then I had an answer back here. And then who did adrenaline? Someone said adrenaline. All right, now, Miss Roselli. That's right, yeah. Carolyn Wagner. And this is the 2020 Best Bites. You might have seen some of the emails coming out with the little cards and the little sayings.
And then Miss Carolyn Brown. But
You got one?
Oh, you're right, okay.
And then Mr. Mark.
All right.
And we have one more. Annie.
And thank you very much for coming. And our next activity will actually be Tai Chi. And that is the last Saturday of this month. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. And feel free to come take a look at the products here if you want to sit in the sun and see what it feels like. That's an option for you. And if you want to come in and schedule a 45-minute session, that's an option as well. And